Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Tank Observers podcast. My name is Jackson McCarty, joined by my co-host Chris Barr. And Chris, what are we doing today?
We're going to be talking about linebackers and all the good that they do and stuff.
Yeah. Again, this is the obligatory. If you haven't figured out the format by now, go to our YouTube channel. It's in a playlist labeled Tank Observers. It's pretty hard to figure out. They're titled pretty much the same thing, just with a different position. And we'll be here when you're done. This will still be up, I promise. So let's go ahead and kick this thing off. Buying or selling, Topher, Micah Parsons is the best linebacker prospect in 10 years.
No. Get that out of here. Come on, Luke Kuechly was in these past 10 years, and he was just built different. And to a lesser degree, I'd say Roquan Smith is up there too as one of those top linebacker prospects in the last 10 years. He was phenomenal. Got to the league, was a bit average. But, you have guys like Bobby Wagner, who was taken in the second round, and he is currently the best linebacker in the league. I don't actually think there's anyone else competing for that position.
Yeah.
So between the cover skills that Roquan Smith showed, almost as good as some safeties, and, Luke Kuechly being Luke Kuechly, I don't really see space for this to be so cut and dry. He's the best linebacker prospect in the past 10 years. I would argue that either of those two could challenge him for that spot. He was phenomenal, but I would say that he's going to have to fight with him for that spot. Is it arguable? Yes, but I do not think it's just an easy yes or no question.
I'm pretty much in the same boat as you, but I do end up leaning yes. I do lean by here because he's got something special going for him, which is being so comfortable in his assigned position. He is a ball hawking linebacker. He's going to play the middle of the field, but he is so comfortable that he is that good at that he is willing to go play other spots. He rushes. He'll drop back if he has to. He'll drop in man coverage if he has to. He presents the upside of guys like Sua Cravens without having a positional identity issue. Because you had to worry about, is Sua a safety? Is Sua a linebacker? Are we going to rush him? Or what are we doing with him here? Micah Parsons can do all of that, but he leaves no doubt in your mind. This is where I'm best at. If you need me here, I'll play it for a couple snaps. And I'm real good at it if you need it. But I am this player. And while I do think Luke Kuechly is a phenomenal player, I think Jared Davis could have been up there, even potentially Roquan Smith, like you mentioned, as prospects. Micah Parsons, is such a versatile and elite player that he kind of beats out Luke Kuechly for me as a prospect. I don't think he'll be better than Luke Kuechly in the pros because Luke Kuechly outperformed his expectations, even with how high he was drafted.
Drafted 9th overall, he kind of already had some high expectations, but being considered one of the best linebackers, not only in the league, but of all time in his short career, he was ridiculous, especially with the pros.
Exactly. You don't get that from a 9th overall pick usually. That's not the expectation, to be one of the greatest linebackers of all time. Luke Kuechly far outperformed his position, even though he was a top 10 pick. I think Micah Parsons will have a bit more issue performing past that 9th overall pick, but I think coming out of college, if they were in the same draft class, I think Micah Parsons would be above him.
All right.
Yeah. Moving on to number 2, Dylan Moses is a top 12 player, even with his previous injury. Topher, what are you thinking?
I think it's situational.
Okay.
If we're talking top 10, top 12 pick in the draft, it's very much a situational thing. But I also could it's hard to say because he is an incredibly talented linebacker.
Yes.
And I believe he definitely could be. I think that he is I personally think he's top 12.
Okay.
But I can see the argument for why he wouldn't be. Injury setbacks are a very real thing. They can drop you back in the draft pretty far.
Yeah.
And, look at Bryce Love.
Yeah, he went from what could have been an outside first-round pick to, when did we get him, the 4th? Washington?
it really can be that bad. And I think that he could actually even be drafted within the top 12, not just be considered a top 12 pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think that depends on what teams are there. But as far as his talent, I would say so. I would say that Dylan Moses, I wouldn't say it confidently, but I would absolutely put him inside the top 12.
I've opted for sell here, mostly because obviously the injury is very unfortunate, but the level that the players have stepped up in his draft class, it's phenomenal. He entered the year at my ninth-ish spot, which had a bit of fluctuation, could have been down to 11 or 12. Since the season has started, I have moved Kyle Pitts, Travis Etienne, and Caleb Farley above him. Because those players, when you watch them on the field, even though Caleb Farley's not on the field this year, but going back and watching his tape, it's so just interesting how great the top of this class is from every angle. And unfortunately for Dylan Moses, that injury concern does bring up a bit about, his mobility and can he keep away from it. And while he does, like you mentioned, I think he does definitely still have top 10 talent. I don't think he grades out as a top 10 player when you have to factor everything in. Yeah. So moving on to number Trace. More than 2 linebackers will go in the first round. I'm going to go ahead and kick this one off. I don't see it happening, personally. It's not that they don't have talent. I personally love Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, but it's the linebacker. It's that it's not really a very valuable position in the first round. It has value, don't get me wrong, but you are obviously, when you're that late in the first round, is what you would expect somebody like JOK to go. You're looking more at the interior of your offensive line, your front 4 or 3, depending on what scheme you run, maybe a corner. You're not typically thinking, oh, we're missing a linebacker. So if things shake out correctly, I don't see it happening. But if a team does start to slide a bit back, like an Arizona who is moving Isaiah Simmons to strong safety, still kind of looking for that linebacker, I could see them going for JOK there.
I agree with what you said on that back end there, because I see Dylan Moses and Dylan Moses and Micah Parsons easily going in the top 15.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's a question. But for teams like the Chiefs, who have Anthony Hitchens currently starting at middle linebacker, and I believe that they've moved on from Reggie Ragland. I mean, we've seen 2 linebackers go in the top 10 several times, and we've seen 2 linebackers go in the first round a lot. So with this particular draft, where it's a lot like Devin White and Devin Bush, where we can look at 2 people going in the upper half of the class really quick, I see no reason that JOK and Cam McGrone go late.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are obviously going to have a late pick this year. And there are other teams like the Cardinals who also are in need of an interior linebacker. The Lions, actually, they're going to be early, so they're probably going to end up with Dylan Moses or Micah Parsons. So, but those teams, I easily see Jeremiah going early. Late in the first round.
Early enough to meet that over-under set. All right, so not necessarily a buy or sell, but just overall, who are you buying the most underrated linebacker prospect in this class? Topher, take it away.
So standing at 6'7", I have a really hard time believing Charles Snowden is going to miss being a great linebacker. He's gigantic and he's fast.
He's a wall.
He's fast. He's a fast moving wall.
Yeah.
Watching his tape, I personally grew fearful.
What are those things that you typically see in front of hotels? Is it revolving door? Did I just miss that? He's kind of like a revolving door. He's way bigger than you are, and he's gonna catch up to you if you're not careful. Sorry, I didn't mean to take you off the track like that.
He's a tackles for loss machine, because when he's running, he just steps over you. He's so big. He can move people. And this bulldozer of a man, he on blitz packages, he gets to the quarterback because offensive linemen aren't stopping him. He's just as big.
Yeah.
It's not like the ends where they're faster and go around. No, he's just as big. So he's like, excuse me, and just takes you down. And then on runs, he tracks down the running back so quickly. He is ridiculous. He's a ridiculous athlete. The issue is his off-ball play could come up as a slight problem when he hits the pros because he doesn't show much off-ball prowess.
Okay.
It's something I'd like to see because at 6'7", it's gonna be hard to throw over him. He if he puts his arms up, you're looking at a 7'5" guy. He is massive.
I think if I was somebody like San Fran, I would draft Charles Snowden exclusively to play 100% of the snaps every time we play Arizona, set a man spy, and literally just, or a QB spy, excuse me, and literally just stay in front of Kyler Murray the whole time.
It'd be like Dola Dobon Curry. Can't hang.
You just can't hang. As far as my most underrated linebacker goes, I'm going with Chaz Surratt. Now, you would have heard me talk about his brother, Sage, in an earlier episode. He is a wide receiver from Wake Forest, who also, I believe I had as my most underrated wide receiver.
You did.
So I guess I'm just a huge fan of this family. But let me tell you why. Chaz Surratt, before he got to college, was a quarterback. Now he has made the transition to linebacker. I think, other than the two that we've already talked about in JOK, Chaz Surratt is my linebacker 4. I have him over Cam McGrone, personally.
My goodness.
And over Jabril Cox, somebody I don't believe we're going to bring up today. But he's also, regardless, a great player. Chaz Surratt, despite the fact that he has not been playing it long, has shown exemplary talent for just being able, for one, to convert his athleticism over to that side of the ball. And he's kept his quarterback vision. You know, you think about that when quarterbacks switch to different positions, how they see the field. And it's helped players like Julian Edelman and Terrell Pryor for a season and other situations where Chaz Surratt is seeing this as a linebacker or as a quarterback. He is seeing the field as a quarterback, but he is playing linebacker. And he knows what the quarterback's tendencies are. He knows what they're thinking in that situation. And as he develops, I think he could even pass JOK. I really do.
Chaz Surratt's cover abilities are definitely he has to thank his past experience as a quarterback.
Yes.
He definitely knows where the quarterback's looking and where he wants to go. But Jabril Cox, another one. He was originally set up for this segment, but he unfortunately had elite cover skills that I wasn't prepared to look at. So we swap over to a player that I happen to be so not impressed with, and that is Cam McGrone. I do not have any qualms with you saying Chaz Surratt is better than Cam McGrone because, but Cam, I am so not impressed. You are so one-dimensional. It is embarrassing. You are a great pass rusher, but at this point, why don't you just move to DN because you can't cover? You never drop back. You're only on blitzes. You pretend to drop back, but you really don't do anything. You just kind of stand around and you're like, oh man, what a great catch. You don't cover the ball. You don't read the quarterback. You don't have the ability to. It's just it is embarrassingly obvious. My friend, you're too one-dimensional. Take some lessons from Jabril. Learn how to cover. And then we'll talk.
Wow.
So not impressed.
Wow. Yeah. You think?
Cam, I do.
Oh my God. To be quite honest with you guys, I'm not 100% filled in on what goes into the So Not Impressed segment. I do generally like to leave that up to Topher. That was far beyond my wildest expectations.
I only have one note put for this, and it is one-dimensional.
Yeah, it is just one-dimensional, and I
expounded upon it.
Yeah, you definitely went after it on that one. But that's a quick and easy show. You know what I mean? We've gotten through our points. We've kind of even shined a highlight a little bit on Jabril Cox, like we talked about we wanted to before the show, even though we couldn't quite find a window for him in here. The linebacking core has been concluded. Next up, we have the secondary, and that will be the final trump on our buy or sells. Speaking of Trump, the election is going on right now for any of you who have been living under a rock, so be sure to stay tuned with that. If anything else, sports is not the only important thing in our lives. That determines what we do for the next 4 years of it. So if you voted or not, you still need to pay attention to it. But for now,
Yes.
I'm Jackson McCarty.
And I eat Pop-Tarts for dinner.
We'll see you guys next time.
But is he the best player in this draft on his own? Without a doubt.